because I will talk very quickly. I don't want us to be on here for too long because I know you've got places to be, things to do, and your time is so, so precious. So thank you again for being here. But feel free to use that chat as you have questions. Vlad, one of our co-founders, is here to answer questions in the chat when you have them. We'll also have time for a Q&A towards the end. So let's go ahead and start with, like, just to get an idea of where everyone's at on a scale of 1 to 5. How well do you know Diffit? 1, are you brand new? You've just learned about it. You're not super confident in what all the features are. 5, you're a Diffit pro. You've shown all your friends. You're making stuff on it regularly in your classroom. And this just gives me an idea of how much detail to go into and what information to share. Looks like we're at mostly 1s, 2s, and 3s, a couple 4s. Welcome, welcome, welcome from Vietnam. Amazing. Oops. So 1 through 5, are you brand new to Diffit or are you more of a Diffit pro? Let us know about how you're feeling. This will let me know how to, like, tailor tonight to your needs. Love that attitude of a 4. There's always so much more to learn, right? Especially when we get feedback from how teachers are using Diffit. I always learn new ideas of how to use it and new possibilities with all the features. Amazing. Okay, so it looks like we're more on that 1 to 3 scale, which is great. That means I get to show you, like, so many things. So let's go ahead and take a look at our agenda. So we're going to look at some new features, but since a lot of you are brand new to Diffit, I'll also show you some of the basics. We'll go through some of the basics because it'll also make it easier to showcase the new features as well. We'll talk about how you can now use YouTube inputs with Diffit, our vocabulary update that I'm really excited for, our new Google Classroom connection, that's not the right word, integration, that's the right word, our Google slide templates, our new site license option, and then we'll take some time for questions and answers. And I know you saw the word site license. We are going to continue offering a great free version to teachers where you'll be able to generate resources and adapt resources for your classroom. But if you're brand new to Diffit and you have teacher friends who don't know about Diffit yet, have them sign up by November 1st for a Diffit account so they get access to all the premium features that I'm showing you tonight and new ones that are on their way through January 31st of 2024. And when it comes to the site license, if you have questions about that, when we do the Q&A at the end, we can go into that in more detail. But right now if you have an account, you have free access to all the features through January 31st, 2024. Share with your friends, tell them to make an account as well so they can get access to those features. And we do have more features coming out soon that I'm super excited about. But let me go ahead and show you how it works. So welcome. We just had a few people hop in. Don't worry if you missed the beginning. We just did intros and the agenda, and just want to remind you, you can use that chat to ask questions. I am recording and we'll send the recording out when we're done as well. So if you are brand new to Diffit, which some of you said you are, welcome, welcome. Thank you so much for being here. This is what Diffit looks like when you go to it. So you go to diffit.me and it'll have 3 tabs when you're first there. Literally anything, an article or video, and any text or excerpt. And so how this works, if you've never used it before, if you've only played with it a little bit, is under literally anything, we could give it a topic, a term, a learning objective, and it's going to generate a reading and resources that go with that content area you tell it. And you tell it which grade level you want the resources to be appropriate for. So whether that's 3rd grade, 5th grade, 12th grade, you're able to tell it the approximate reading level. You want the reading passage, the questions, and the vocabulary to be produced in. And if you're like, I don't know what she's talking about, I'm going to show you in just a second. With an article or a video, here you can put in a YouTube video link or a link to an article, and same thing, choose the grade level. Here it's going to adapt what you give it. So it's not going to generate something, it's going to adapt the transcript of the video or the article that you've given it to the grade level you choose, and also create those additional resources. Now, if you have a PDF file that you want to use, or if you have something you want to copy paste over, you can go to this last tab, any text or excerpt, and you can either upload your PDF or you can paste the text here, and you're able to, again, choose the appropriate grade level for your students and generate your resources. But let's go ahead and start with literally anything. I will come back and show you article or video in a second as well. I'm going to go ahead and type in the word mitosis. I'm going to set it for 5th grade. I'm going to say generate resources. And here it's using AI with some guardrails we've created in order to create a reading passage for your students that will also have key vocabulary, a summary, multiple choice questions, short answer questions, and open-ended questions, all aligned to that reading at the top. And now, because it is creating a lot of resources, this part does take a little bit of time, but right here we've got that adapted reading passage, and we can see the sources it pulled from. So this makes it a little bit different than some of the other tools you might see out there. Even though it used AI to generate this reading passage at the grade level that I picked, I can say show sources. I can see the list of the sources at the bottom, and I can go back and confirm, and I can also edit and change things if I need to, if I want to change the wording a little bit. Then we have our summary. Again, you can still edit and change that. Our key vocabulary words, our multiple choice questions, our short answer questions, and on these you can see example answers. I forgot to show you that on the multiple choice questions as well. And your open-ended prompts. Those ones don't have example answers because we hope that every student has a slightly different answer with those ones. Now I'm going to go ahead and jump into one of our new features before I show you the YouTube input. Here on our vocabulary list, one of our new features is that you can add your own vocabulary words. So you'll notice that right here you can click add vocab words. And typically the way that it used to work was you would just tell it that you want to add 1, 2, 3 words here, and it would automatically choose more words from the reading above and give those to you. I'm going to go ahead and, oh my gosh, I wasn't a science teacher. I don't know what words to put here. I didn't think about that. Normally I do a history example here and I didn't. So let's just go ahead and say phase, because that shows up. Cell wall, thank you. Give me one more in the chat. Give me one more word. It's okay if it's not perfect for mitosis. What's another word we could add here just to see how it does? Oh my gosh, I don't know how to say that one. All right, and I'm going to say generate. I might have misspelled that last one while typing it in. And it's going to take it just a second as it creates definition and sample sentences for this added to this vocabulary list here. And with multiple choice questions, I can add more questions. I can choose the depth of knowledge I want them to be. I can choose how many. So we'll say like 2 more strategic thinking questions. It's going to take it a second. Same with the short answer questions. I can choose what I want them to be. 1 more extended thinking. And with the open-ended prompts, it's not going to give you a choice of the type of question because the open-ended prompts are always going to be that extended thinking. But I can add more there as well. And of course, I can still go through and edit and change them if I need to. So that's the basics of how literally anything works. And again, we went, for those of you who are more on the 3 to 5 side of the scale of Diffit experts, we're going to get into those new features soon. But I wanted to give a review of some of the basics for those of you who might not have seen everything that it can do and create for you. So let's head over to our next new feature, which is our YouTube inputs. So we've had an article input here for a while where you can give it an article, choose the grade level, it'll take the text from that article and adapt it, and then create all those resources you just saw. I'm going to go ahead and take this YouTube video. It's a crash course YouTube video on the French Revolution and paste it in here. And I'm going to say that I want this for a 8th grade level, and I'll say generate resources. Now here it's taking the transcript and adapting that into the reading passage and creating resources, the summary, the definitions, multiple choice questions, the short answer questions, and the open-ended questions are all coming from that transcript. But again, this is another place where if you wanted to go through and make some edits or changes, you absolutely can. It's adapted the transcript here. We've got our summary, vocabulary questions, multiple choice questions, short answer, and open-ended prompts. So I've gone through and I've shown you how you can add new vocabulary, you can add questions. With the vocabulary, last time I showed you if you add your own list where you can put up to 20 words here with a comma and it'll add them. But you can also just say like, man, I want 5 more vocab words, and I can say generate, and it'll pull them from the reading above and create those definitions and example sentences as well. And I see a question in the chat. We have Vlad here answering questions in the chat, so don't be afraid to ask those questions. Now, here is my favorite part of our new features, and that's our export and share button. So I'm going to click here to export and share, and we now have a new template library. Previously, what we had here was the ability to print or save to PDF, Google Forms exports, and Google Doc exports. We now also have these templates of Google Slides, both interactive slides and printable workbooks that are designed in Google Slides, where it's going to take all that information that I just created from that YouTube video and throw it into these templates for me. Now, if there's a template you want to see that isn't here yet, you can go to the bottom and let us know, but I'm going to go ahead and head up here to our Frayer Model Vocabulary Interactive Slide. I'm going to take a little preview of what it looks like, see the standards, see the description, and then I can say open with slides. Now here it is taking all of those pieces and throwing them onto the slides. And this one was a little bit longer. It had quite a few paragraphs, so it might take it a minute to build out the slide deck, but it will take all the resources from here. If I feel confident assigning to Google Classroom, I can share to Google Classroom right away, but I'm going to go ahead and open Google Slides so I can take a look at it. The first slide will have some instructions for the teachers. You know what's best for your classroom and what resources to use. This is just some guidance. If you've never seen this before, feel free to delete and use the slides however works best for you. But this was more so if you've never used this kind of slide deck before, or if it's your first time using it, it goes over what's included. So we've got these vocabulary slides. You might say like, oh, I want my students to have a slightly larger font there for the definition, but then they're going to put the characteristics, examples, and non-examples in. And I did this for every single vocabulary word. And remember, I added extra vocabulary words, so there's a lot. It also created these reading slides where students have the reading chunked by paragraph, and then they can take notes on this side. And again, for every paragraph of that reading. And now since it is on Google Slides, I can still edit and change. I could add some pictures if I wanted to before giving this to my students. With the multiple choice questions, it's set up so they can answer the question and explain. We've got our short answer questions where they can write the response. And then with those open-ended questions, this particular activity has them answering and then talking to a partner or with their group. And this is just one of the templates that's available. I'm going to go ahead and show you one more. Maybe interactive slides that you give to your students and they type on and work on isn't your thing. Maybe your students are really into working on paper and pencil, and that's what works best for you. The workbooks are going to be the key here. So I'm going to go ahead and grab our claim, evidence, reasoning, short answer workbook. And with all of these slide decks and workbooks, even though they have one core activity, it will also generate activities for every single part of it. So for all the questions, all the vocabulary. Oh, my mouse wasn't working for a second. So same thing here. We've got those claim, evidence, reasoning graphic organizers for students to use with the questions here. If I scroll down, and this might happen sometimes, which is why it's a good reason to review it. Just want to increase the font size. Maybe for your students, you want to turn this into 2 pages instead of 1 page, you can here. We've got the vocabulary activity as well that's ready for them to use it in a sentence, an image to represent it. Again, these are designed for printing and they're ideal for printing. All right, let me go back to my agenda and make sure I went over all the new features with you. I did YouTube inputs, the vocabulary update, Google slide templates. I did not show you how it goes to Google Classroom. So I'm going to show you that really quickly. Let's go back to our, oh, actually, I'll just do it from right here. I'm going to say share to Google Classroom. So once you create the slide deck or the workbook or the activity, it will have this option to either open it to review it and make any edits you want to make or immediately share it to Google Classroom. So here I'll say share to Classroom. I can choose my class. I'm going to create an assignment with this one. And then here I'll make a copy for each student and assign it to my students. We'll make it due tomorrow and I can go ahead and assign. And then it'll be in my Google Classroom for my students to use. My Google Classroom is, there it goes. I was like, my Google Classroom is struggling tonight. I only have 4 students. So you'll see the assignments are already here in Google Classroom. And of course, then I could go through and see, or I only have 3 students at the moment. I can see the work that they're doing on their Google Slides. All right, so we went through YouTube inputs. So you can use a YouTube video that has a transcript. It'll create an adapted reading passage at the grade level you choose. The vocabulary update, where you can now add your own vocabulary list up to 20 words, just separate them by a comma, and it'll create that definition and sentence for them. You can export all the templates immediately into Google Classroom. And we also have that new Google Slide template library. So now that we've gone through the new features, in the chat, while I go back and look at the questions that were asked, which new feature are you most excited for and why? So of the new features you've seen, or maybe this was your first time seeing Diffit, and so maybe it's one of our original features, what are you most excited for and why? Oh, Vlad, thank you. I want to show you guys the language one. I'm gonna, while you guys are telling me what feature you're most excited for, let me show you about translating, and I'll also show you Google Forms. So go ahead and throw that into the chat. Let's go back to our mitosis one. It's just a little bit shorter in length. Yes, great, great. Thank you, Vlad. Thank you for reminding me. All right. So when you create your reading, you choose the grade level that you want it to have the reading level for, right? And here, let's say in your class, like I'm a former high school teacher, I had 42 students in my classroom, all at different reading levels, right? Maybe in your classroom, you want to also create a reading passage and questions at a slightly lower or slightly higher reading level for a small group of your students, or if you're working with some kind of intervention, you can regenerate right here this activity into the new grade level. But what I'm really going to show you right now is the language abilities. So we have over 50 languages right now. If you have one you need, let us know. I used to work with our multilingual students, and we'd always, every year, our newcomers would have a brand new language that we'd need to add to our skill set. And so if there's one that your school has that's not listed here, let us know, we'll add it in. But you just choose the language, you say regenerate, and it's going to go ahead and translate it. Christine, I'm going to talk about the instruction part right now. That was a great question. I'll show you what, I'm going to show everyone exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, when it goes over to the slides, as of right now, it does not translate. But we're working on it. We are working on it. Just the instructions though. All right, so here, it's still loading, it's still thinking, it's translated all of the sections for us. So we've got them all translated, ready to use with students. And then I can still export. Now for this one, I'm going to export to Google Forms, just so we can show the Google Form one. When you use Google Forms on this one, you can choose what you want it to include and what you don't want it to include. Right? If you just want it to be the open-ended prompts, you could have it just be the open-ended prompts. But I'm going to have it include everything. I'll say open with Google Forms. And then I think this was part of what you were talking about, Christine, but also on slides, it does the same thing. We're not every part of the instructions or titles will translate, but all the content for the students and the questions and the vocabulary has translated. But we love that feedback, and we love all feedback. It is something we are working on. So there it is in Google Forms. You'll see it's already set up as a quiz, but you can, of course, change the settings, move things around, add pictures, change the instructions if you want to, whatever works best for you. All right. Did we want to see anything else? Or Vlad, did I miss anything else before we move forward? I think I'm going to keep adding those questions in. So we shared which new features we were excited about. It looks like a lot of you are excited for templates. You're excited for the YouTube videos. Love it, love it, love it. Share in the chat one way, now that you've seen it, Hopefully those of you who are like feeling 1 and 2 at the beginning are feeling more like 3s and 4s about your Diffit content knowledge. What's one way you might use it with your students? You can also keep adding those questions in. It does not auto-generate a separate Google Drive folder at this time. So it does not create that landing spot at this time. Yeah. That's a great question. Trying to help teachers modifying curriculum is a great way to use it. Using it for those YouTube videos. I want to give you a little bit of time to think about how you might use it to support your students now that you've seen how it works. And I love the modifying curriculum, right? Diffit, our big thing is being able to differentiate, right? Instruction, if you didn't know, that's why we're named Diffit. Portfolio samples for each student. So you have to have students show their learning with different topics. Being able to adapt a reading on the fly if students are struggling. Hi, Natalie. It's so nice to see you. Yes, I love that. Find, existing content that you're already using in your classroom, being able to just differentiate it for your students. If you have students who are struggling, or if you have students who are like moving ahead and you need to present more of a challenge to, you can do that here as well. All right. So I moved too many slides ahead. We talked about a little bit about our Diffit site license, and I want to go ahead and invite Vlad to speak a little bit more on it, just so you know what we have available and where we're at, because this is brand new for us. We just launched it last week. So welcome, Vlad. He's one of our co-founders.
Hi, thank you so much, Catherine. Can you hear me okay?
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Thank you all for being here. Yeah, so there's a web page. I'm going to put the page in the chat so you can check it out after this as well, with all the info. But basically, we have launched a school and district-wide subscription that has all the premium features. I guess some of the features you saw today were premium features. In our app, you'll see a little purple icon next to anything that is part of like a premium feature. And that is now available. You could request early adopter pricing at that website that I shared, web.diffit.me/schools. And let's see, what else is there to say about it? You all, assuming you've created an account, as Catherine mentioned, have free access to premium features through January 31st. We are very intentionally working very hard to keep the costs super low for schools and districts, because we want Diffit to be available for all teachers and students, and do it like keeping a flat rate license is our way of allowing us to keep costs low. If you have any questions, I encourage you to fill out the form. I mean, first of all, now's a great time to ask questions, but you can also fill out the form. You'll get an email with pricing specific for your school. It's based on school size, because we generally feel like a tiny school shouldn't pay as much as a huge school. And then if you have questions, you can certainly reply to that email as well. I will look at questions now. And what about college professors who work with pre-service teachers? Great question. Will you offer a personal license? So our current plan is to not offer individual teacher licenses. Again, that offering both that and school licenses pretty dramatically increases the cost and complexity for us, which means all the prices have to go up. That said, we're going to continue listening and evaluating to how we can best support sort of edge cases like yours, Anne, where it's like, I don't have a school, there's no principal to pay for a site license, but I really want the premium features. You have access through January, so we feel like we have some time to figure out the best way to support you. Please, let's just stay in touch. And if you don't hear something by January, like write us via a contact us form, and we'll try to figure something out.
Yeah, Laura, same thing. So just if you don't hear from, keep giving us that feedback, keep letting us know. And we know that there are some circumstances where we want to find the best solution for all of our educators.
And just to be clear, like we're not it's not like secret pricing that changes all the time. It's a few bucks per kid, added up to however many students. It ends up being about a few bucks per kid depending on the school size that you have. So we're really trying to be one of the more affordable ed tech tools out there to make this kind of a no-brainer for schools where Diffit can have an impact.
Oh, Mike, you're not killing the flow. Don't worry, because I was about to be like, whether we have questions about the site license or about Diffit, throw them in the chat, because now is a little bit of time for Q&A. You said, how would you leverage this in your classroom? Oh, man. So Natalie, are you able to come off mute and share? I'm so sorry to put you on the spot.
No,
Will you talk about the station rotation where with your students and what you did there?
let me, I'm trying to get, oh, there, now I'm off of mute on video.
Yes.
Everybody can hear me okay? Hey, everybody. So I had some students, my psychology students were doing some stations, and one of the stations was a reading that I had given them online. It was a URL. They asked me after a few minutes of reading quietly, which is what I'd asked them to do first before the discussion piece. And they called me over and they said, we just don't get it. And I said, well, can you be more specific? And they just kind of like waved their hands around and they said, the words are too much. So I put the URL in Diffit, and in, a minute, I had an adapted reading. And they were actually able to put the two side by side, and I printed out the adapted reading for them. They put the two side by side and they were able to make it comprehensible between the two. I use a lot of edu protocols and find Diffit to be super useful for creating the readings that are easily accessible, that they can use in a cyber sandwich or in an Iron Chef. It just makes life really easy.
Thank you for sharing. Natalie's been one of our we go to her with questions. We have her test things out. She's an amazing teacher. And so I thank you. She did not know I was going to put her on the spot. So thank you for sharing.
Sorry.
And Mike, as a former teacher myself, as someone who used the protocols before as well, I think what Natalie said is pretty much in line with how I would imagine using it in my classroom. Generating the readings on a cyber sandwich is a really great way to do it. Using it to help you create a hook, or if you see that you need to do some reteaching, it's a really great way for reteaching. Yeah, I love those ideas, using the questions for that fast and curious. I think there's a lot of potential in combining both. It's definitely something we've been thinking about exploring more, because so many teachers that find us also use their frameworks as well. And as someone who use them in my classroom, I know how valuable they can be and time saving they can be. If there's a particular template that you're looking for from them that you'd like us to have, let us know in the feedback form. Let us know in that feedback form, and that'll help us start maybe some conversations as well.
Just if I can jump in, Catherine, for a minute, I feel like that the how Diffit is used in a classroom question is, for me, one of the most interesting ones, because there's been such a broad application. I'll just rattle off a few, Mike, and for anybody else that's here, and I encourage you all to to respond. So we've seen a bunch of different uses. At the end of the day, it comes down to either resource generation or resource adaptation and differentiation. We've seen teachers that don't have a curriculum, hey, guess what? It's day one of school. You thought you were an English teacher. You're also teaching music and health. If that's happened to anybody, it's you could use Diffit to generate many of your readings for your curriculum, as well as some of the activities. I think also, even if you have curriculum, but there's a topic a student is particularly interested in, or you want to go deeper on something that's not covered in depth in the curriculum, or you don't have resources for, sort of instead of Googling around and whatever, or buying something on TPT or looking around for what you could find, you should be able to generate at least a decent reading about any topic at any of grade level you need, with some supplemental activities to go with it. As far as the adaptation goes, we've seen it especially powerful in intervention settings. So if you support English learners, if you support students with IEPs that need some modification, it's a pretty quick and easy way to get that, including for topics that maybe you don't personally know a lot about. We were working with this EL interventionist in Texas who, told us a story about how newcomers come to her classroom that are in 10th grade biology and are, at a second grade level in English, and are asking her for help with mitosis. And she's like, I don't know what mitosis is. How am I supposed to support these kids, right? And so I think the modification in intervention settings, as well as simply in the right small groups, like Natalie said, or resource centers or group work, can go a long way. Those are some of the primary ways we've seen it. The other way we've seen it that's really interesting is individualization. So we just had somebody write in the other day. I was like, I've had a kid reading about dirt bikes all week. So if you're like, have a student that just needs high interest on grade level content, you can give them that, in a pretty rich way very quickly with Diffit. And I think there's some fun ways you could try and push the product too. So like, we're about to release some features that let you do this more easily, but like, I wonder what would happen if you wrote in, like, write me an article about mitosis, but connect it to dirt bikes. Like, you might get something pretty fun that the kid would actually have a good time with. So those are some of the use cases we've seen, at least so far, but we're still very much learning.
And I'm loving the ideas that are being shared in the chat as well. This is why I always love these calls, because we get a bunch of educators together and you all start sharing ideas and like adding on, like Vlad shared one thing and somebody added on to it, and Natalie, you sharing your story. So I love the ideas being shared. And Brenda, absolutely, when it comes to interventions, motivation being key. So being able to create those things for students that are really to their interest without a lot of lift for you is like such a game changer. I thank you all so much for sharing and contributing to the chat, but we are almost to the end of like what our time was supposed to be. We're actually past what our time was supposed to be, and I want to make sure we honor your time. So any last questions? We had one question come in anonymously about will there still be a free version for teachers? Yes, generating and adapting resources will remain free. Some features are going to be part of that premium model with the site license. And if you go to the link that Vlad put in the chat earlier, it gives you the whole breakdown of that as well. And I saw, is there a way to use Google Slides, Gamma PowerPoints to have Diffit generate resources beyond the Google Slide exports? I don't know what Gamma PowerPoint, like, explain more, Megan. Tell me more. Beyond the, like, from the Google Slides making the resources, or?
I think maybe it's more like, can I import a slide deck I already have and have that generate like a set of different resources?
There we go. Not at this time, but one of the things I want to stress is we love feedback. And so that's one of those things, if we see enough interest, we'll definitely take more time digging into it and seeing if it's the right fit for what we can do. So please, please, please give us the feedback. And the more we hear from teachers that they want this one thing, the higher up we move it on to our list of things to investigate and figure out and see if we can make work. So I actually, that's why you gave me the perfect like segue into our end. I cannot thank you all enough for being here and taking this time to spend with us. We love your feedback. We love your questions. It helps us make Diffit even better. All the features you saw here today were because of teacher feedback. So please do not hesitate to email us, reach out to us on Twitter, reach out to us on TikTok, wherever you find us. Let us know questions, feedback, ideas, new templates you want to see. We want to hear it all. So if you don't have any other questions, I so appreciate your time. I'll stay around for like one more minute more, just for those of you who got here late, if there's anything else you want to see. But thank you all so much for your time and have a wonderful night. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thanks, everybody. And thanks, Natalie, for the impromptu assist there.
Yes.
Did you change your hair? Is your hair purple, or is that just the Zoom?
No, it's kind of pink. It's October.
Amazing.
Yes, I love it.
It's kind of pink.
Awesome.
Well, I'm going to stop recording.